Welcome to the press briefing on innovation technology-related initiatives of the 2021 policy address. On stage, we have Mr. Alfred Sit, Secretary for Innovation Technology, Ms. Annie Choi, Permanent Secretary, Ms. Rebecca Poon, Commissioner for Innovation Technology, Dr. George Lam, Chairman of Cyberport, and Dr. Sunny Chai, Hong Kong STPC. The Secretary will give a PowerPoint presentation before taking questions. Before you ask questions, please raise your hands and also identify the agency you represent. Mr. Alfred Sit. Friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the press briefing. I'd like to review on INT-related initiatives in the Chief Executive's 2021 policy address. And then my team and also chairman of the two Science Park and also Cyberport will take questions. Subsequent to the policy address yesterday, I've been in touch with many stakeholders, professionals and chambers of commerce and universities, R&T personnel. They fully recognize the encouragement to INT development in the policy address. As early as October 2017, when the Chief Executive delivered her first policy address, she already mapped out 8 very clear directions for developing INT. And this term of government has been rolling out measures and strategies under the 8 major areas and has already invested over $130 billion to support INT so that we can prosper in this area. The central government attaches great significance to this and has provided staunch support to INT development in Hong Kong, and the 14th Five-Year Plan indicates clear support for Hong Kong to develop into an international INT hub. This goes to show Hong Kong's position in the country, and there's a great support for further development of INT in Hong Kong. The policies and measures have been successfully implemented, and we have a very vibrant and flourishing situation. And we have seen a very encouraging growth in R&D, and we have also witnessed the birth of 12 unicorns. Since the new listing regime introduced in 2018, more and more biotech issuers have chosen to go listed in Hong Kong. So far, 40 pre-revenue biotech companies have been listing in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is Asia's first and the world's second largest biotech fundraising hub. So we're now in the golden age of INT development in Hong Kong. Now, in terms of international ranking related to INT, I think we have fared very well. The World Digital Competitiveness Ranking 2021 was just announced, and Hong Kong has been ranked the first in Asia and second in the world. And we are now the first in terms of performance technology factor. We've also got 5 world top 100 universities and also 2 very competitive university medical schools. The central government has given us very strong backup in INT development, and important measures have been introduced. And in 2018 May, the central government allowed research funds from Hong Kong to across the border to reach Hong Kong, and over 370 million renminbi of R&D funding has been approved by the Ministry of Science and Technology. And then in November 2019, now human bioresources can reach Hong Kong, and then human genetic resources can come to Hong Kong for various research, and new measures have been announced to facilitate Hong Kong for further development of this sector. The industry is greatly encouraged, and we must grasp these very good opportunities so that we can give full play to Hong Kong's advantages, and we should press ahead with full steam using innovation and contribute to the development of GBA, so that in the dual circulation development pattern, we can contribute to the country by providing what it needs, and to further promote reindustrialization. The government has suggested that INT Bureau should be reorganized to INT and Industrial Bureau. In the coming few months, I am going to discuss with stakeholders in the industry so that we can come up with a detailed plan. In this year's policy address, there are various new measures.
In order to develop Hong Kong into an international INT center, we have a number of measures. First, earmark additional land for R&D and development tech infrastructure. Second is nurture talent. Thirdly is to take advantages of the GBA. In terms of earmarking additional land, we have reserved around 250 hectares of land for R&D development, including at the Northern Metropolis Development Strategy. Lok Ma Chau Santin will be developed, and they will provide around 150 hectares for INT development. So a Santin Technopole will be established. And then we will develop together with the Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park to establish a 240-hectare INT hub, and altogether 540 hectares of INT land will be established. For the Ma Liu Shui reclamation and the relocation of the Sha-Tin sewage treatment works to Caven, around 88 hectares of land will be created for INT development. So the Eastern Corridor's function as an INT hub will be strengthened, and the MTRC will study into establishing a new Pak Shek Kok station. And the government will also provide around 5 hectares near Lau Fao San to build landmark and INT facilities, and for collaboration with Shanghai. And also 6.5 hectares of land will be set aside for Hong Kong U and TMHK for research use. In addition, I will also be supporting the Polytechnic University to use part of their campus for INT research. And we would also be asking the HKSTPC to start planning for the second advanced manufacturing center. We will also take forward the development of SITP, explore the development model with greater flexibility. And of course, we will take forward the expansion plans of Science Park and Cyberport to respond to the keen demands from the sector on INT facilities. The National 5-Year Plan proposes the establishment of life and health sciences centers. We are very strong on research in that regard. We have a number of experts, and we have also a number of research labs which meet with the national standards and well recognized by Europe and the US. So we are in a good position to give full play to our advantages in life and health sciences to respond to meet the market needs. So we are proposing to set up an InnoLife Health Tech Hub at the Science Park. So we will focus on biomedicine, chemistry, physics, engineering, big data, and AI, etc. So these will be applied in the fields of prevention, diagnosis, medicine, surgical, micro robots, advanced treatment and rehabilitation, etc. To develop actively in that area, clinical data are essential. So the HA has clinical data from over 40 hospitals and 100 specialist outpatient clinics for over 40 years. So HA will work together with the Science Park on using such clinical data for research and development. In terms of research, grooming talents, for the Global STEM Profession Scheme, which was launched in June, the response has been very positive. The first tranche of the experts and the research teams are arriving in Hong Kong gradually, so we will continue to work on that front. In addition, the government will also explore the extension of the immigration arrangement for non-local graduates to cover graduates of Hong Kong universities' GBA campuses, so that we can create a greater talent pool in Hong Kong and to facilitate Hong Kong taking part more in the GBA development, to help startups to seize opportunities in the GBA and expand into the market there. The Science Park will set up its Shenzhen branch so that those interested in expanding into Shenzhen can establish a presence there. So at the Shenzhen branch of the Science Park, a GBA Inno Academy will also be established. There will be a resource center, a training hub, and an exchange platform for talent. We would also set up the GBA Inno Express to nurture startups and support INT enterprises to go global and attract foreign investment, so that we can give better play to Hong Kong's status and role as a pathway. The Science Park will work with relevant institutions to establish incubator networks in the GBA campuses to foster talents and startups. The Chief Executive, in the latest policy address, has shown to us the new governance style of the new government. So a new roadmap has been charted. So a number of new initiatives related to INT have been outlined. This goes to show our determination and commitment to develop INT in Hong Kong. I will work together with my colleagues and will also join hands with stakeholders and strive to do a better job. I believe that if we can work concertedly, we can build a bright future together and develop Hong Kong into an international INT hub, and to create quality jobs for young people in Hong Kong, and to instill new impetus to Hong Kong's economy, and also contribute more to the national development of the country. So Q&A time. So please use the mic and identify yourself and your organization before you speak. Sing Tao. Secretary, I am Lo from Sing Tao. I have 2 questions for you, and then 1 question from the Science Park and 1 for the Cyberport. Secretary, at the Loop, there will be the INT Cooperation Zone, and a new InnoLife Health Tech Hub will be established. I wonder how it is going to operate. What is it about? Previously, the government spent $10 billion to establish 2 Hong Kong platforms. So for this new hub, how much resources will you plow into it? Will the operation model be like in Hong Kong, or what? Secondly, about the 250 hectares of INT sites, can you tell us the timetable? Say, for example, for, say, the Shantin, Tanopo, Ma Liu Shu, and La Faoshang, when will the sites be made available for use? And for the 250 hectares area, so how many job opportunities can be created? A question for Sunny. The government has invited the Science Park to study into establishing a second advanced manufacturing center. So have you initially identified a site or location? Will it be done in Suntean? What advantages or benefits will it bring to Hong Kong? And then Cyberport, Dr. Lam, you have made a response yesterday. You said that at Lau Fau Shan for the landmark facilities, you would like to provide support to that particular facility. What kind of support will you provide? Thank you.
Now first, the new development in New Life Health Tech Hub is based on our many years of development in this regard to strengthen our foundation in the past few years through connection with overseas and the mainland through our universities. Now we have connected well-renowned universities to build an Hong Kong research cluster mainly on AI and also robotics and life sciences. The idea was how to use Hong Kong, this international city, to connect with various sectors so that Hong Kong can be a research base. And we have done very well. And therefore, as reported in the policy address, 28 research laboratories have started their operation in Hong Kong and carrying out various research work. How can we pool resources together? Now, apart from the Hong Kong research clusters, now among the 28 research laboratories, there are 16 related to life and health. There are a dozen or so key state laboratories in Hong Kong, and 8 of them are related to life and health disciplines. So our idea is to focus resources and the laboratories so that we can have better synergy in the loop. So the laboratories are now scattered in different universities or in a science park, but there is synergy among them. When it comes to development in life and health disciplines, well, they would straddle more than medical sciences. Physics, chemistry, robotics, and artificial intelligence will be involved. So how can we converge the resources of all these research laboratories together so that we can even do better in life and health disciplines? This is an innovation. We are going to focus all our research efforts in the loop so that we can have a major research platform in the loop. We are now building new buildings with laboratories and related facilities that can support the development of these areas. In the past few years, with various research teams, we have the Hong Kong research clusters, and with also state key laboratories. We have financial support, and so under Life Health Tech Hub, we can better focus our research resources. As regards the timetable for the new INT land, looking back, our investment in INT, we know for sure that there must be support for R&D. So in areas such as digital development and reindustrialization, we have new structures to be commissioned. For instance, we have the Advanced Manufacturing Center, and then our Microelectronics Center, and also expansion of Cyberport, and also expansion of the Science Park. In the coming few years, we have major developments in infrastructure, expansion of the Science Park, Cyberport, and also the HSITP, and also the Microelectronics Center. We have sufficient supporting infrastructure for INT and reindustrialization. Now we are in a golden age. We have large amount of enterprises and startups that need more infrastructure support for their development. So in 10 to 15 years' time, we are going to promote more infrastructure. So the development of the Eastern Corridor and also the HSITP or the Technopole, well, they are examples. Next year, together with the Development Bureau and Relevant Bureau, we will start relevant studies and promote relevant development. Perhaps I should pause here and see if whether Dr. Chai and Dr. Lam has anything to add. Thank you, Secretary. First, the rationale behind AMC2. The Secretary referred to AMC and also MEC, and they were first considered in 2016. And some of the facilities, the industrial park, have been revamped. And we've also got a medical appliances manufacturing center. It will start commissioning in end November. So for AMC2, we'll use the established approach. We have already set up a committee to study what is the best location and also industries to be housed in the AMC. We're now carrying out 2 consultation exercises. Let me supplement. In promoting reindustrialization, apart from financial support, infrastructure support is just as important, and that's why we have industrial estates in Hong Kong to ensure that the industrial sector has enough land for their development. However, more and more industrial processes are digitalized and also use artificial intelligence. So we should pull resources together to lower the cost of investment on the part of entrepreneurs. And therefore, our concept is to build buildings with shared facilities to support the industry, and that is the rationale behind AMC and MEC. So such infrastructure is very popular among our industrial sector. The first AMC will only be completed by phases in 2022, but many tenants are already asking to start their operation in AMC. We're very much encouraged, and therefore we have invited the HK STPC to start planning for the construction of the second AMC. We will have multi-story buildings with shared facilities, such as dangerous goods, clean rooms, to promote industrial development. Dr. Lam. Thank you, Secretary, and thank you for the question. The policy address proposed to build an iconic INT facility at Lau Fau Shan, comparable to that of Cyberport. We welcome that. As we all know, Tianhai places a lot of emphasis on modern services which require digital and innovation promotion for e-commerce trading, for instance, and we've also could develop very well in esports. We have got 150 esports companies. And then in RegTech and low-tech, we also have a lot of promotion. Now, professional services is the basis of industrial processes, and we have also got 400 fintech companies. So we have FTech and digital entertainment startups. They have brought tremendous opportunities to promote our cooperation and collaboration with Qianhai, Shenzhen. And Qianhai also need opportunities to go global. Hong Kong is the best place because we are highly internationalized. In Cyberport, we have companies and talents from all parts of the world. So Cyberport can be a springboard for companies to reach Southeast Asia and the US and Europe. So we welcome the opportunity at La Foshan. It will help startups with more opportunities for improving our industries, our industrial structure. Yes, Qianhai will serve the whole world, and we should utilize the support of local industries and grasp the opportunities to be provided by Qianhai. And Cyberport can be a demonstration as to how we can use digital technology to promote the development of modern services. Can I invite the Permanent Secretary to supplement? Thank you. Perhaps I can supplement on the InnoLife Health Tech Hub. Now, we have started the operation of TMHK laboratories. They are carrying out a lot of R&D work, and they've often told us that they have new ideas for R&D. So in the coming years, they will continue to work hard, and they will need space for further expansion.
At the same time, like what the Secretary said, while there are many collaboration opportunities, say, for example, some of them are involved in diagnosis. They can work together with medical equipment and suppliers and engineers and so on. So if we can put them in a place together, there will be good synergy to be created. And we also know that a number of enterprises, large and small, overseas and mainland and local enterprises, are interested in establishing a presence at the Loop, at the INT Park. They would like to set up their R&D base there, or even their production lines there. So we believe that if these facilities can be put together with the research labs, then there will be a good synergy, because ultimately they are from the sector and they are the ones who would do the production. Now, some of them are stationed in Science Park, others at universities, and others at industrial estates. So if all these talents can be converged in one place, then there will be greater synergy to be achieved. And at the same time, we can also work together with the enterprises across in Shenzhen for production and research and development. Since this is the advantage of Hong Kong, we should pool all these talents together so that we can create even greater benefits and advantages for Hong Kong. Now, you asked about resources and the operation model. This is an idea that we are floating now, so it's subject to further discussion in terms of the modus operandi. Now, on the funding, we will look into that as well. But I mentioned about 24 research labs. They have already got the funding to carry out R&D work in the next few years. All right. Ming Pao, the journalist on the last row. I'm from Ming Pao. In the policy address, much is mentioned about INT infrastructure. Are there any other measures which can help startups in Hong Kong to venture into the GBA? Or would you launch measures to allow mainland talents to come to Hong Kong? Now, you mentioned that in 2017, 8 major directions were mentioned. In the past few years, what have you done to help INT development? Now, a question on Ma Liu Shui Reclamation Project. Do you have a specific timetable? In 2019, there was great opposition to the plan. And was the idea floated by the science park, or was it the government who proposed the plan? And for the 250 hectares of land, will it all be used for developing INT infrastructure, or will it be used for, say, property development, like what's being done at Cyberport? Will it be managed by Cyberport and Science Park? And then I have a question on Leave Home Safe app. Now, mainland experts and Hong Kong experts have liaison meeting. So do you have any specific follow-up work to be done? And for Leave Home Safe, will it be connected to the health code on the mainland? Will it have a tracking function? And say, for example, if Hong Kong people don't go to the mainland, so do we still need to have real-time registration for using the Leave Home Safe app? So perhaps the Secretary can focus on answering questions related to INT initiatives in the policy address. On questions about Leave Home Safe, maybe that can be saved towards the end of the press briefing. First question on how we would help startups to venture into GBA to launch their services, and how we can facilitate the flow of talents between the two places. We have spared no effort in promoting startups in the past few years. In 2014, local startup number only 1,000. And after several years of hard work, we now have 3,700 startups. So it is a vibrant sector. How can they seize hold of the opportunities in the GBA so that they can do better business, they can get better support? This is something that we are working hard on. For the two parks, Cyberport and Science Park, they have different plans to help startups to go into the GBA. The latest development is this. Like what I mentioned, at the Science Park, there was a Shenzhen branch in Futian to be established. The purpose is to provide even greater support to startups to move into the GBA. So the Inno Academy and then also the Inno Express, these are the two initiatives with that particular purpose. Startups may not be familiar with GBA cities, but then they are on very good familiar terms with the Science Park and its operation model. So if we have a Shenzhen branch of the Science Park, which is managed by the Science Park, then startups will be able to deal with an organization that they are more familiar with, and they're then more willing to actually make a foray into the GBA. So that's how we help startups to move into the GBAs. Now, in terms of grooming talents, apart from grooming local talents, we are trying also hard to attract talents from the mainland and overseas. So there are some paragraphs in the policy address. In paragraph 151, it is mentioned that the scope of our talent admission scheme will be expanded to cover also professionals in the medical and healthcare sciences, microelectronics, integrated circuit design, and arts technology. So by expanding the scope of such a scheme, then more talents can be attracted to Hong Kong. Well, I will not give you the details. There are some other plans which aim to attract overseas talents. And then your second question about the Ma Liu Shui Reclamation Project, and also the relocation of the Sha Tin sewage treatment works. Right now, some 900 enterprises are stationed in the science park. And we definitely need more space. So we do have the phase 2 expansion of the science park, but we see that INT sector is very vibrant. So a lot of enterprises would like to have their presence in the science park and the cyberport. And because at these two parks, the management of these two parks will help them and give them support in moving into the mainland market. So for the science park and the cyberport, vast expansion has to be embarked on. And for science park, we need the Ma Liu Shui reclamation project and also the relocation of the Shanti sewage treatment works. But that takes time. We have a phase 2 expansion of science park, which will be commissioned by 2024-25. And new infrastructure support will be provided to science park users or tenants. And the phase 5 of cyberport will be commissioned in 2025. So around 40% more area will be added to the complex. So whether it's the Ma Liu Shui reclamation project or the Santin Technopole, these are projects which will be commissioned in the next 10 to 15 years. So we will design the plan in accordance with the needs of the sector. Now, for the 8 directions charted out previously, there have been improvements in terms of our regulations and systems. We govern based on the laws we have, and sometimes some of the laws may impede development. So on various fronts, amendments of these laws are being made. In the policy address, there are some paragraphs talking about several dozen laws to be amended in the future to meet with the development needs of Hong Kong. Some of them have to do with improving the legal environment to facilitate INT development. So, for example, the Electronic Transactions Ordinance, which can facilitate the adoption of technology in enhancing public services. So we can turn paperless, the government services can turn paperless. So there are also some other examples. So I will not give you the details here.
I'd like to add 2 points. Regarding reclamation at Ma Liu Shui, now a few years ago it was first proposed and then shelved. Back then the concern was now because the proposal was to reclaim land for residential purpose. So local residents were worried about possible traffic impacts. But now the government will revive Ma Liu Shui reclamation mainly for the purpose of INT use. Now, this is a major departure from the previous proposal. It's not that there will be many residents living there, traveling from the north to the south of Hong Kong at the same time, generating traffic flow. Rather, it's a place for INT. It will attract provide opportunities. So the traffic flow will be in the opposite direction. And so the proposed use is entirely different from the previous one. It will mainly be for INT use, and I believe the concerns can be addressed. Regarding startups in the Greater Bay Area and assistance we're going to render to them. In the policy address, as mentioned in the supplement, it is said that our universities as well as our science our universities will have incubation setups in the GBA. So if young research teams have new ideas, they can get the support they want there. We have got various youth employment scheme and youth entrepreneur schemes in GBA. These will continue to support our young people to work or to start up in the GBA. And of course, the Cyberport and also Science Park will continue their work. There will be a lot of collaboration with the mainland so that local and mainland startups can operate in the GBA and they can be supported whether they want to go global or to attract investment. I visited startups in Shenzhen together with the chief executive. In fact, the operations are very much intertwined. We have many mainland startups operating in Hong Kong, and one in Futian, in their INT park there, we saw young people from Hong Kong. They could see the good opportunities at GBA, and they decided to have their startups there. We should give more support to our young people so that they can tap into this potential market with 86 million population. So, as said by the PS, we will have a park in Futian, and then our universities also have their campuses in the mainland. They have their incubation setups. Mainland graduates may also see the merits of Hong Kong and decide to come to set up their startups in Hong Kong to go global. At the right-hand side, at the back in white, I'm from Now TV, Secretary. We talk about 250 hectares of land for INT. Because Lau Fao Shan, Ma Liu Shui, and Santin Technopole are involved. Can you tell us which is the site that can be commissioned first? According to your program, where is the site that can be commissioned the earliest? And have you discussed with large R&D teams so you attract them to come to Hong Kong first so that you can attract other startups so that you can really create a second Silicon Valley there? And as AMC2, are you going to build it in the existing industrial park, or would that be in the new 250 hectares of land? So will Lau Fao Shan be granted to Cyberport, or will a third company be set up to operate INT facilities at Lau Fao Shan? As for Pak Shek Kok, why have you chosen the site being occupied by at U Hong Kong? Because it's quite far away from the science park and also the university station. For the new INT land mentioned in the policy address, we'll have about 150 hectares in Santian. Together with the 87 hectares of land in the loop, we have about 240 hectares in the northern metropolis for INT use. And then at Ma Liu Shui, that is near Science Park, we will have reclamation together with a relocation of the sewage treatment works with 88 hectares of land and 5 hectares of land in Lau Fao Shan. We expect to have a startup center for modern services there. And then for Hong Kong University and also Chinese University, there will be 4 hectares and 2.5 hectares of land for INT respectively. So the site that can be used earliest will not be the areas I've just mentioned, rather the 87 hectares of land already formed in the loop, because funding approval has been granted by the Finance Committee of LegCo. Land formation of that 87 hectares of land has started. We expect that the first batch of buildings will be commissioned in 2024 in the HSITP. So we will have land in HSITP and expansion of Science Park and also Cyberport 5 expansion. We already have sufficient infrastructure for further expansion of INT, but we are talking about a blueprint a few years after. We can't afford to wait to plan new land after that. So we're so happy that the policy address has made an unprecedented move. 250 hectares of land has been earmarked so that INT development in Hong Kong will be more vibrant and sustainable. In the coming few years, we already got new facilities, new buildings to be rolled out, whether we talk about reindustrialization. Well, we have the AMC and also MEC to be commissioned. And you mentioned the second AMC or AMC2. Our preliminary thinking is to have it in our existing industrial estates. There is site land available for setting up of AMC2.
You also asked about the situation on Lau Fau Shan. The site will have an INT center with a scale comparable to Cyberport. Will Cyberport be responsible for managing the facility? I think that warrants a further study. And in our planning process, we found that technology has developed rapidly and the society is changing rapidly. So we don't have to pin down on exactly which party should manage the site or facilities. Rather, we should listen humbly to the various views in the community so that we can enhance our use of the site and our management model. You asked about whether we have discussed with major conglomerates on our plans. In the past year or so, in view of the developments of the INT park, I've been liaising closely with a number of local and overseas conglomerates. They are very interested in establishing a presence in Hong Kong and then move into the GBA. Hong Kong has apparent advantages under the one country, two systems, and we are the most internationalized city among all cities in the mainland in terms of the business environment, taxation policies, and so on. We do command certain advantages. So undoubtedly, we are talking about a GBA market of 86 million people, which is much, much larger than the market in Hong Kong. So for them, they should base themselves in Hong Kong and then try to tap the GBA market. At the northern metropolis, we will build a Santin Technopole for enterprises which are very interested in the GBA cities or market. Then the northern metropolis will serve them well because it is geographically very close to the mainland. So let me supplement. You talked about Pak Shek Kok Station or Science Park Station, which is quite far away from Phase 3 of Science Park. Well, in fact, it's not that far away. is just about 800 meters away from Phase 3 of Science Park. For any MTR station, well, if it is just under your building, that's most desirable. But the catchment area of an MTR station will be much larger, including the buildings in the vicinity. So whenever we design an MTR station, we will give due regard to such catchment areas and the roads to connect the station to the areas in the vicinity. I believe that the MTRC will do the best job in that. And the Pack Shop station site is very near to the Science Park, and it can provide convenience to tenants of Science Park. This is very much a design issue. Sorry, the speaker's not coming through. Here, we would have to talk to other policy bureaus, in particular those from the Development Bureau. Apart from the development timetable, we would also be mindful about the changes in the society, the development of the society, and the stakeholders' views. We are now talking about a mid to long-term plan. And what matters most now is that we know we have such planned use of the site, and then we can embark on or further our study on the land use. The one in blue here.
Questions from the South China Morning Post. First, I'd like to just clarify a bit about the overlap of the clusters in the InnoLife Health Tech Hub, the Santin Technopole. Why is this overlap necessary, and why does there need to be a further sort of separation between the different life sciences clusters already existing there? And then you've also mentioned that the commission timeline, perhaps that the 87 hectares at the Loop will be commissioned first because the land is already there. And what about the other infrastructure facilities? Are you doing all the research at once? And what's the prioritization of these projects? And the last question is, a lot of these facilities are situated near the borders for collaboration and for transportation. But will you also be asking help from the Shenzhen government or the central government to assess the needs and the demands for the national development in these industries as well?
Thank you for the questions. For the first question about the development of the InnoLife, when we are talking about development of the InnoLife Research Center, first of all, we need to know about what we have in hand and what we can make best use of those already in hand to make us even from strength to strength. So the first question that we have to ask ourselves is that, okay, what we have in hand. So we have now 16 number of sticky lab, 8 number of them that is about linked to the life and health sciences. And we also have the Hong Kong Research Cluster. Altogether, we have 16 number of them. They are also linked to these important subjects. But the problem itself is that they are scattered around in many different areas. So how can we make good use of those already in hand, the resources that we have, to make it have a better synergy effect? That's the concept behind why we think we need to have better coordination, to have all those important laboratories grouped together to build in our loop area to make us from strength to strength. That's even stronger, to have a better and stronger and bigger platform to develop and life science in Hong Kong. That's the first question. And about the priority, well, when we are talking development of those land supply to support our building of infrastructure for the INT development, so we need to understand very well that what we have is the loop area. We have altogether 87 hectares that we can make use of it to develop our innovation and technology center in the loop area. And then for other areas, for example, for the Eastern Corridor, the sea reclamation, and they may need time to have more thorough study before we can really know about the program that we can have. And also we need to know about the demand from the trade industry before we decide the program. So in the coming future, we are going to conduct some study with other bureaus to confirm the program before we proceed ahead on the real construction work. At the present moment, what we have in hand is the loop area that we have already secured funding from the NETSCO, and so that we are going to proceed with the construction and make ready the land supply, the building supply to support our innovation and development at those areas. But for the coming future, we are going to conduct study so that we can make good use of those already allowed in the current policy address and supporting our R&D development in the longer term future. That is our plan. Yeah. So, anything you would like to supplement?
No. I think in response to your first question, I think there's no overlap at all. It's an issue of evolution. The labs in TMHK are there, so they would continue with their work. So our thinking is that by the time the loop is ready, they can, well, it's time for the expansion and then relocation. And then we would be clustering all these labs, some of them in Science Park, others in the universities, as well as labs and production facilities of the private sector together, so that there could be more synergy. So this is the way forward.
Sorry, I really forgot the last question that you asked about whether we have any cooperation and coordination with the Samjan municipal government. Well, since we are working for the common objective, so we need to have more cooperation with Samjan municipal government, and we are working on it. And we do have an established mechanism for us to talk with the government at Samjan side so that we can have a better synergy between Hong Kong and Samjan. We developed a loop area, and we have the development in Samjan taken into account as well. So that in the coming future, we need to strengthen our cooperation with Samjan, and now we do have the mechanism for the purpose. Yes.
就後邊嗰位。
The one at the back, Hong Kong 01. Mention was made of Ma Liu Shui, and it would mainly for INT use. What other purposes? And I'd like to know how much of that 88 hectares of land will be used for INT. And for that 24 laboratories, I'd like to know resources spent on it. And many members of the public may not know very well what the Advanced Manufacturing Center and Microelectronics Center are for, and how is advanced manufacturing different from ordinary manufacturing. Now, the 80+ hectare of land in Ma Liu Shui. Now, the site will mainly be used for INT. But even for development of the science park, we've just developed InnoCell, which is like a dormitory building to allow our R&D personnel to have a place, have accommodation and a place for interchange, for exchange, and to mingle. So the 80 hectares of sold land at Ma Liu Shui will mainly be for INT. Will we have facilities like InnoCell there, so that we can create a healthy vibe for INT there? Now, at this stage, we haven't done any detailed study. Technology develops by leaps and bounds. It's impossible for us to say now what INT we need here and what talents we need. They may be local talents, or they may come from overseas, and then they will have need for accommodation. We need more time to explore, and I hope the public can be engaged. Public engagement and also participation of the industry is most important. So we will very proactively communicate with the public as well as the industry, so that the overall development can meet the needs of society and the industry in particular. And you asked how is an AMC different from ordinary manufacturing. Dr. Chai can supplement, but my understanding is as follows. Now, for ordinary industrial buildings, now if you're a tenant, you have to prepare the facilities you need. But then there can be plenty of shared facilities in modern manufacturing, such as clean rooms, dangerous goods warehouse, and also logistics facilities. These are things tenants can share. So if a single tenant has to foot the bill for his own facilities, the cost will be high. I hope if the media are interested in AMC, we can organize a visit for the media, and you see that there are many advanced shared facilities there. And when it comes to advanced manufacturing, then there will be a greater requirement for, say, shock-proof and vibration move and proof and clean room. So in terms of headroom, loading, and ability to withstand vibration, etc., they are a very advanced design. Thank you. The AMC at Changkwan-o, well, some industries were not considered during the first consultation. For instance, in materials science and aviation equipment, sophisticated equipment. Now, as mentioned by the Secretary, the AMC has higher headroom, and the logistics center is right at the ground floor. It's a common logistics place. You will not see any people pushing the goods around with trolleys. And then for the second AMC, we will have to conduct a public engagement exercise first to see what industries want to be housed. Some may need DI water, some may need GMP, and some may need a clean room. So we will have to gauge the needs of industries first. As said, we are going to construct the second AMC at our existing industrial estates. PS. Regarding funding support for the existing 24 laboratories, in the coming 3 to 4 years, we have reserved $6 billion for these 20-odd laboratories. And of course, every year we will gauge their progress of work, but we have already earmarked this amount of money for them. I hope that they can make breakthroughs in their areas of R&D. Every year we will consider their financial position. When necessary, we can provide more funding. The second row on the right-hand side. Good afternoon, I'm from TVB. The policy address said that they would consider the arrangements for non-local graduates to work in Hong Kong. Would there be a ceiling for the universities? I'd like to know the actual timetable and what are the requirements. Who can be eligible to come to work in Hong Kong under the scheme? Thank you for your question. I think we're still at a stage we are still considering that possibility. Now, for graduates from overseas students, and they can stay in Hong Kong to serve our economy. They can work in the INT industry. This is about building up our talent bank. Well, our universities have got branch campuses in the GBA. Now, if these young people graduate from our university campuses in the GBA, perhaps they can be our talent as well. So we will consider this together with other bureaus. There are journalists in blue. I'm IT Pro. Regarding development of electrical vehicles, it was frequently mentioned in previous policy address, but not this one. But this is a global trend. Can you talk about that? Well, electrical vehicle is under the portfolio of Mr. Wong Kam Sing, Secretary for the Environment. Now, this is a very important technology to help reduce carbon emission and save energy. We've provided financial incentives for use of electric vehicles, and we have also got pilot schemes for different mix of electric vehicles to be used in Hong Kong. We have also put in a lot of resources in the government. We have a steering committee chaired by Financial Secretary to coordinate experts and the sector to help the government to promote the use of electrical vehicles. Well, by 2025, by 2050, we have to achieve carbon neutrality. So we have to understand that vehicles account for a large proportion of carbon emission in Hong Kong. So we need to promote the use of electric vehicles so that we can complete the target of carbon emission reduction. But of course, it is something for the Environment Bureau. So I can only share with you what I know. I understand in a few days' time, Mr. Wong Kam Sing, Secretary for the Environment, is going to meet with the press. By then, I'm sure she will have more information to share with you, because we have a clear climate change challenge. We have to address it, and we have a complete plan to tackle that. But I'm sure Mr. Wong Kam Sing will have more to share with you. The one in blue, I am from Stan's News.
There are various sites for INT development. You said that you would listen to views on how to manage the sites. But what about the development mode for Cyberport? Back then, the site was allocated to one single company, and there was no open tender, which was criticized heavily. So has the government initially thought about what is the development model to be adopted? And have you studied into the relevant land titles, ownership, whether they are owned by Cho managers or property developers? And also the question on the Leave Home Safe, can you answer that later on? The secretary said that right now the app doesn't have a tracking function, but if borders are to be reopened, government officials and experts have said that a tracking function needs to be installed before the borders can be reopened. And some inside sources from the government said that there is not ruled out that the two things will be combined. And so members of the public are worried whether that you would renege on your promise. So would you be relaying the possibility that you would combine the two apps? So I would definitely answer the question about the border travel and so on. Let me take the other questions first. About land management and also the tendering approach. I've talked to various sectors of the community, and indeed many have told me that in order to support the development of the INT sector, in terms of management and also tendering and so on, we must be innovative in order to meet with the latest needs of the society. At Cyberport or Science Park, it was the government which built the facilities, which are then rented out to the tenants. Like what Dr. Chai said, well, for the first AMC, we listened to views of the sector, and we understood from them that we needed to build a multi-story AMC complex. And they said that they needed common facilities. So that is already incorporated into the design. Now, going forward, if someone from the sector says that they want a certain site for designated use, our current tendering process may not be able to meet their needs. So in terms of our tendering arrangement, we will take into account views from the market so that we can best serve enterprises who are in the INT industry so that they can be allocated the land use more easily. Well, let me cite an example. Maybe Dr. Chai can supplement later on. At the industrial estate, say when we tender a site for use by the sector, we would pay heed to different factors, including the opportunities to be brought by a certain tenderer. We have a two-envelope system. One is on the technical side, the other is the pricing side. So it's not that the highest bidder will get the tender. No, we will assess the needs of the society and the economy at a particular juncture, and then also look at the opportunities to be brought by the tenderer, then we will give an overall score. So I think the mechanism has worked well. Maybe Dr. Choi can talk about the model at the industrial estate. Well, that serves only as a reference, but all I'm saying is we want to adopt a more innovative approach so that the precious land resources in Hong Kong can be put to the best use. We don't just look at the money to be generated. We would like to look at the impetus to be instilled into in the sector by the tenderer. A couple of years ago, we have done a number of surveys with regard to the industrial estates. For those who have rented our premises, under 8 guiding principles, the outcome, the number of jobs created, advanced processing. 5th, the products are advanced level, meeting with local needs, for example, face masks, anti-epidemic products, food, Chinese medicine, medical supplies. 7th, R&D elements, whether you're talking about the product or the production process, the R&D involved, and also the sustainable development is the 8th factor. Dr. Chai cited one example about how we put the facilities at the industrial estate to the best use. Well, technology develops in leaps and bounds, and there are different types of industries as well. So we are upholding the principle whereby, apart from the bidding price, we are mindful that we should maximize the use of land so that we can instill impetus into the economy and create jobs for our young people. In our future development, whether we're talking about the Suntin Technopole or other sites, we should adopt more flexible tendering approach, which can meet the latest needs of the societies. So we have listed out the factors to be taken on board. Now, say, for example, what are the industries which can best meet the development of Hong Kong? We have to hear views from the society on that as well. Well, in the interest of time, the last 2 questions, the one in white at the last second row.
Questions from RTHK about the reclamation project of Ma Liu Shui. how is the land use distribution for the reclaimed land, and specifically how much of the 88 hectares of land is for IT development? And also because the government proposed reclamation there to build housing before, but now it's allocated for IT development. So do you expect any objection from the public? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. About the first question about the proportion of the land, reclamation land being used for INT. Well, for the current planning, we are going to put focus to make the land available for INT development, mainly for INT development. But I have to say, we don't have a fixed percentage how much of those land are going to be deployed for INT development. They are mainly for the purpose. But certainly we are going to review the whole process and see how we can make best use of the reclamation land to support our INT development. And so mainly of the land for INT. That's what I can say at this moment. And for the second question, whether there will be objection from the residents nearby. Well, as what my permanent secretary has just mentioned, well, the objection, at the past, mainly are coming from the concern on the transportation support and all sorts of issues that may cause the current residents some problem. Since we are going to have the land mainly for INT development, we can expect the objection or the problem that will be caused to the resident will be highly minimized. And we expect the objections to be minimal, but certainly we are going to listen to the view of the community before we really make up our decision and our planning on how to make best use of the land. So, Annie, do you like to supplement? Yes. Okay. So, thank you.
最後一題。
Last question. The reporter in green at the back. Good afternoon. The policy address said that we will have an INT Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau. You have in your position for a while. What are the inadequacies in the current status? Is it that you have difficulty in promoting industrial policies? And should there be reorganization? What suggestions do you have? And what planning will you do before you enter this term of office? And then we talked about that 250 hectares of land, and many reporters has been asking for a timetable for delivering the land. I'd like to know what will be done in the remaining time of this term of government. What are the preparation and the advanced works? Can you give us a timetable so that we will know when the advanced studies for the sites will start? Thank you. For reorganization of the INT Bureau into an Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau. Now, the IT Bureau is responsible for promoting reindustrialization, so we're already involved in the promotion of industry. But of course, other bureaus are also here to assist our entrepreneurs or industrialists. So by means of collaboration of different bureaus, we've tried to make the process as smooth as possible, but we need to fulfill the needs of industrialists, and I think it's much better if we have one single bureau to do that. And for the future, we will place emphasis on innovation and reindustrialization. So to place all the relevant duties within one bureau will improve internal communication, and local industries can have access to one-stop service from one bureau, and I'm sure that will be a good advantage, a big advantage for real industrialization. And the second question is, we will start as soon as possible. As I said, we have already discussed with the Development Bureau. Take Santin Technopole as an example. Next year, we will immediately start the whole feasibility study. I have discussed with the Secretary for Development, Mr. Michael Wong, so that the relevant development can start as soon as possible. And we will also discuss with the industry, in particular, the Federation of Industries and also Hong Kong Manufacturers Association. We'll also discuss with LECHCO and see when we can press ahead the earliest possible. But while we can do all the preparation work, I think the actual implementation will be for the next term of government. Secretary, can you reply to the question about resuming cross-boundary travel and also the health code? With concerted efforts of the public and the various sectors of community, we've seen the last local case on the 17th of August. So we have got all the conditions right for resuming cross-boundary traffic. So we will do our very best so that the central government can be confident in reopening the borders. At different areas, in different areas, the government has, the central government has done an excellent job in fighting the pandemic and has been very successful. And for Hong Kong, of course, there may be differences in terms of the way we fight the pandemic, but we will try our very best to narrow down the differences so that we can continue to contain and fight the pandemic together with the country so that we will not affect the central government's efforts. So to fight the pandemic and now reviewing our health code, some members of the press asked how we can merge that with Leave Home Safe. Now, all requirements to fight the pandemic, for instance, we may need the health code with the user's name registered. We will explore that. And for details, I think we have to discuss with experts before we can confirm. So allow me to give you a report at a later stage. Thank you. The press briefing ends here. Speaker is off mic.
好嘛，你喺度個位度啊，大家想喺個位度，要補翻係嘛？頭先啊，好好好。